My morning groove.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Guys, welcome to a Game Diary postscript episode. My name is Miss Harvey.
And I'm Michelle Morrow. And we've got a great interview for you guys today on our postscript. Jeannail Cuddlecore Carter is with us today. So if you missed our diary entry on her, you'll definitely want to check it out. It's in the link or description below wherever you're listening or watching. But let's jump right into it. Cuddlecore, welcome to the Game Diaries. We're so happy to have you on the show. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here as like a post interview after watching it. I'm really glad to. I'm really glad to be here. Thank you so much.
Yay.
Oh, you're
so
such
glad to have you.
Beautiful soul. I'm so excited that you're here. Your energy is so contagious. First of all, we love your story, obviously. I think it's an important one to share and highlight and be proud of. That we have people like you in our community, Jeannail. You are so inspiring. And we think that that watch party was actually pretty damn cool.
Yeah, it was.
For those who don't know, she watched the episode on her stream. I think it was last week, right? So can you talk to us a little bit about it? Like, why did you decide to do it on stream and how did it go?
So I chose to do the watch party with my chat, like with my stream, because I think all the time I'm so used to kind of like isolating myself as a competitor and kind of like not having that part that's accessible to me. And I'm like, you know what though? I'm a human being and I'm so used to kind of like not really rewatching interviews or really like talking about my story or like even processing how I've gotten here. But I think it's important for people to see it and for my community sharing that with me because I'm proud of myself and they're just as proud of me. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be where I am right now. So like, to share in that moment with them because it was definitely a combined effort for sure.
You know, your community seems so supportive. Like I watched some of it too. And it was weird. It was like meta because I was like watching you watch the party of watching. Like it was so funny. I was like, what is this world I'm in? But it was really cool because I got to see so many people in your chat like discuss your story and discuss the struggles you've had to face just like as a minority, as a woman in this industry. And it seemed to really open some of their eyes too, or at least open a conversation for everybody. What was that like for you discussing sort of like being a 1% in this industry? What was that like for you to talk about with your audience?
It was very easy to do, because I think by this time, I feel like everybody kind of knows like what I'm about because I'm very vocal about it, right? And that I enjoy what I do, but there are definitely difficulties, and I talk about them. Whether it's in the podcast that I do with my my best friend, or like the fact that I talk about it literally during streams, whether it just comes up in conversation or something is said because somebody's insensitive to it, like somebody who's usually new in there, or like maybe somebody is new and they don't understand certain things about the community, so they say very like off color things, and you're like,
no.
well, no, like this isn't what this is. I'm in this demographic, I can talk about this because I'm in this, and people making very generalized statements. So I sometimes you have to correct people, and I think that's really, really important. But a lot of my community understands because they come from groups that are marginalized as well, right? And I think a lot of my community, actually I know a lot of my community understands that. A lot of them are people of color as well. So we all can relate to each other. So I think, it's actually very easy for me to express myself about those things a lot of the time, 99.9% of the time.
It's really actually heartwarming to see you online being so vocal. I mean, obviously I said this when we were talking about you behind your back, but we were saying, like it's really heartwarming to see somebody, because you are so young. I mean, in comparison to me, but like you are so young in this industry, and it is really nice to see people speaking up and standing up and not just having the courage, but also having the platform to do so. It's sometimes, before a lot of us weren't there was no, even like 5-6 years ago, there wasn't like Twitch the way it is. We didn't have the same sort of accessibility out there for having that platform. But I think that, Miss Harvey and I can relate to, the fact of being a woman. And it's like, it's weird because we don't always want it to define us. But at the same time, there's a responsibility in a weird way to also talk about it so that people understand, or that you can continue to sort of blaze a trail so that other people can have an easier time after you.
Right. Yeah, I think that you have a really good point here, Michelle. Like the fact that we don't want to let it define us, unfortunately, by being pioneers is part of it, right? And the more of us there is, the more we can be defined by something else than being the token woman, but by being a funny person, but by being a fierce competitor, but by being, it's a little bit like female representation in game or in movies, right? I always think about how before, maybe like 10 years ago, a woman in a game was always that she had to be everything. She had to be funny, beautiful, smart, fierce, that character had to be everything. And now we see a little bit more in games where there's multiple women, and some of them are funny, some of them are rude, some of them are like shy, and it's fun to kind of embrace what diversity can bring to us, but not just be somebody of color, somebody of gender, but also like being somebody of color and gender that has a personality, right?
Right.
And it's awesome to be able to embrace it by sharing these stories. And I think that's something that I discovered with Jeannail is your story is way more than that 1%, right? And we need to talk about the rest as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think sometimes like you all said, like we're kind of put into, sometimes, and a lot of times it's on accident. We're put into these boxes where we're kind of like, oh yeah, woman in gaming, the 1%, or like, she's doing it well, she's trailblazing, but she's a woman doing it, and when you get asked to be on diversity panels all the time,
God,
and you really just want to be like, you want to just, hey, I do have multiple skills that make me more than qualified to talk about my actual profession. That would be nice. Because, like what was just discussed, because we're so much more than just that, but it's the fact that we have these wonderful personalities and we bring so much to our professions. It's just the cherry on top that we are also women trailblazing in our fields, and it's supposed to be a cherry on top. It's not everything. It's just we bring all of that. It's the power of being a talented woman in the field, right?
Aww.
And it's not just because she is. It's because what she brings to it. So.
Stephanie and I have talked about those diversity panels before, about how like pretty much every
on a
convention
diversity
you go
panel. I think on a diversity panel we were kind of like, fuck diversity panels.
Oh my God. Like, and it's always like at the end of a hall, like really far away.
Yes.
Like, like they're like, we gotta have the diversity panel, but it's like way back there, tucked away. And you're like, well, I guess I have to talk about it because I have to talk about it until this becomes normal. But it's a whole thing. But as far as being a competitor is concerned, I learned so much from Miss Harvey because, I'm not a competitor. Like, I mean, I think that I am when I'm playing Overwatch by myself at home, but, I don't have the same sort of drive that the two of you guys have when it comes to this profession.
I think something that's very interesting for me in my career, I want to see if it was similar to you, because you're in I would say like almost 2 decades later, superpower competitor. When I started, I never saw myself as a inspiration, as someone that had a message and whatnot. And it just kind of became, unfortunately, my mission, because of the interviews I was getting, because of people that were talking to me, because of the media, because of like everything around, it just became like, after 10 years I was just like, okay, well, I guess I am a feminist. I am fighting for our rights, It kind of happened. Do you feel like, how do you feel about that? Do you feel that you have to take that role and talk about your experience, or do you like to do that? Like, how has the process been from like just being a competitor to now, I think, being an inspiration and a role model for others?
Well, I feel like it's changed in the sense that like you said, when I started all this, I didn't think about any of that. I just really wanted to be good. And I loved and I loved, going to the events and meeting the people that I would fight with online because they became my friends. And because it opened up a whole other world to me, a place that I felt accepted. When for years before that, sometimes I really felt like I was I kind of felt like I was always kind of on the outside in high school and middle school, like my whole life. And I think honestly, yeah, at first it was just yes, oh my God, like there are people who enjoy this. They're fun, they're my friends. We share this hobby, but we also have 10,000 other different hobbies we share too. And but then I noticed the deeper I got into it, there definitely were some problems, obviously,
Mhm.
right? Being like pretty much like one of the only women. Um you hear things. You when the more you're exposed to different types of personalities, not everybody is for you. Um and you kind of see, the comments that people that people don't check, the disrespect, the fact that there's no order, and how it affects the group that's being targeted with these said comments. No wonder things aren't being fixed or changed. It's because nobody's checking anybody. And I'm like, hold on. I already have to work really, really hard as a competitor. I don't need a second or third thing to have to compete with. That literally makes it 10 times as hard for me and people like me, because people are, saying ignorant things about women or black women or, black people, and nobody's checking anything. I'm like, no, 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 no. Like, and then you kind of naturally find yourself speaking up because you're like, okay, like, like I said, you're already competing in one way. I don't need to compete in 80,000 different other ways. So naturally over time, you just find yourself speaking up, because I think at some point you get tired
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
I hope I
Definitely.
explained that. Okay. Yeah.
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 No, that makes perfect sense. It kind of it's something I'm going to be talking about in the next story that we do, but there's this sort of concept that women have to deal with. We hear about like the glass ceiling all the time, like how we're going to break the glass ceiling, but oftentimes when we're put in these positions of kind of being exceptional, we're put on what's called a glass cliff instead, and it's a kind of a precarious and risky situation because it's exciting because we're doing something that, is different than what other women prior have done. But at the same time, it puts us in a uncomfortable situation because we have to take on so much more of the problems in a scene or a job. We inherit problems that we kind of have to deal with, and it kind of puts us in a disadvantage because we have to solve issues plus being a woman plus do our job. And that makes it the glass cliff where it's like, oh, wait a minute. I'm not really breaking the glass ceiling. Like I might just like fall off. I'm like acting it out like right now. So I'm like on the edge of the cliff right here. But as far as you're in the FGC, and I've professed my love for the FGC. I think it is such a fun community. I love the energy at a tournament. It gets me so excited. It's my favorite kind of tournament to be at. But saying that, like, the FGC isn't without its problems. And even in just this last year, it's exploded with revelations that a lot of people have had. And I know you've got your podcast, FGC Woke. I assume you probably talk about this on there. Have you handled the various sort of like allegations and revelations? Is this something that you kind of discuss more with your community and on your podcast?
Yes, I have. Like we said, like vocal. That's me.
Yeah.
And so is my best friend. We do not hold back, And so the things that have happened on the allegations, the insensitive racist remarks, the companies some of them trying to fake concern about Black lives when it's not really the case, just doing it for a trend, which, a lot of us Black content creators said that's what it was going to be. We called it anyway. Oh, yeah. And it was. So you asked, how did that feel?
Like, How did you kind of deal with the revelations? Like, what was your sort of reaction to when it was all coming out? Were you kind of like, yeah, I know, I've seen it, I've been aware, or was it sort of shocking and new to you? Some of it.
Some of it was shocking and new, but at the same time, once I was like, I was also like, I'm not surprised, and I hate to say it like that, but I really wasn't surprised because there's so many things that, like, within the industry and with people in power, there's always something that's swept under the rug, and this is just a pattern. And with the FGC, it's no different. It's crazy because, for example, like Evo, that whole thing, I'm like, isn't that like 20 years, right? And I'm like, and this is now coming out, huh? I'm like, okay, all right. Okay.
How do you feel with Evo now? Like, I don't know what to feel about it. This used to be my favorite event to go at every year. And I'm not even like fully FGC, I just like love the FGC.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, because if I've always said, like, if we had more order, if there was actual, like, rules and, like, laws and things put in place, things like this would have gotten checked years before. And to protect the members of the community, to make it safe. And there's so many things that are still not being brought to the light because people are afraid. Because the internet, there's no policing on the internet.
No.
People will come for you. And it shouldn't be like that. Because what happens? Nobody with money will want to touch this community because it's literally a ticking bomb. Like,
right.
And that's, and in my opinion, maneuvering that has been quite a challenge because I think I've tried to keep like a very optimistic like view of the space that helped build me. But I am more than that now. And I've almost had to like separate myself from such a huge part of it. And to say like, hey, the FGC definitely did help cultivate me, but it is not all of it is what I am. It's not all of me at all. I had the biggest realization, like, it's hard to associate yourself with something that has so many deeply rooted problems. But I appreciate it for what it's done for me. But now I get to build and grow my own community and my own path. And I think, so the same mistakes don't happen again. That's
how we do. Well, you're building it back up. You're building it back up better. And that's what's going to take is like people in the community who they did succeed from what was there prior, but that doesn't mean that what was there prior is perfect and it doesn't need to change. And luckily, there seems to be a group of women specifically in the FGC who are kind of speaking up and trying to make it a better place. And I do see a lot of guys really stepping up too. And like Tasty Steve, like he pulled out of Evo before it was fully canceled. I was so impressed by that. And like, that's a big event for Tasty Steve. Seeing him do that, I was like, yes, we need that. We need that allyship with men. And it was really good to see people like him and the other commentators really speak out against kind of what was going on. Just seems like there is hope for it. It feels like there's hope for it. But it is a bizarre situation to be in, and good for you for, changing, kind of flipping the script on it. And saying that, like, the FGC is predominantly men. Like, it's with like all esports, it's not, all esports is predominantly men. There's very few like female competitors out there. And I have personally watched you take down all those men. And it was funny when I was talking to Stephanie, because I was like, what do you know about Cuddlecore? She's like, I know she beats guys. And I just died.
Yes.
But the first guy that you ever had to beat, though, was your dad. Does he ever try to challenge you now? Like, does he ever try to play Tekken these days?
No, not at all. No, but what's fun? What's funny? He still likes to play fighting games. After come home from a long day at work, just take the socks off. You want to chill downstairs. And he bought Dead or Alive. I think he and Mortal Kombat, which I thought was funny. I'm like, But no, he'll just have a, he just really has fun with it. But he's definitely still a gamer because he also plays other video games as well. Definitely, he's not a competitive person, but he, I think he really enjoys mashing some buttons and enjoying a good storyline here and there and some good graphics.
I like mashing buttons too. Good
I
for
have
him.
a random question. Do you play other fighting games? Like, when we go to Evo and stuff, like people like Justin Wong, they enter like 8 tournaments and they try to win them all. Like, do you focus purely on Tekken or do you play a couple more?
Oh, I love this question. It's funny because I actually play Soul Calibur as well, but it's from the same company, right? And so I don't compete in it, right? But I'm like fundamentally I know what's going on and I can like play. If I wanted to compete in it, I totally would. But I definitely focus on Tekken because I feel like all of my energy has to go to that game because it's like it's so much. It's changing every season and I always gotta stay sharp. It's just But when I do have that downtime, I definitely like have played Soul Calibur 6. It's really fun. The community is super sweet. They hooked me up with like some of the newer characters. They bought them for me and like they just looked out for me, gave me tips on combos and notations. They're great. I wish I could play it a bit more, but I'm so competitive and Tekken tournaments are online and the netcode is good. So, I'm always competing in those now. So I don't have any now I don't have any time again to play Soul Calibur. And I'm like, maybe that's okay for now, but I'm too busy.
It's a good problem to be in. So let's to focus on your competition. You are now part of Team Equinox. Can you talk to us a little bit about Equinox? Because I know like what it represents, but maybe not everyone at home does. And also, I think you're doing maybe a little bit of coaching there. Just tell us what you do over there.
Okay, yeah, for Equinox, So I am a pro player first, but that's changed and evolved so much. I represent them as a public speaker, and I have coached. I got hired by EXO Academy. The coaching session is over, but I was hired to coach a woman in Tekken 7 for a month. And it changed both of our lives, which is
cool.
I
got
loved
goosebumps.
It was great. I see all the potential in her, and she's wonderful, but she made me realize some things about myself too. That the way she is, I'm like, you're gonna be good. But I felt so protective of her, right? Because she looks like me. And I'm like, I just don't want anything to happen to you. But and I made sure I always had a lesson planner and stuff, and to make sure she was like, I asked people like, hey, can you play her? Like, I was so excited. I felt so good. Like, this is what this means. Like, this is why I'm supposed to be here, right? Yeah. But I don't know. I'm getting so teary about it, but because it felt so good. It felt good. But aside from that, I also help raise money for charities. I raised what was it? I think it was a lot of money, but we raised 10K together for breast cancer research.
Nice.
And I think it was. For me, it was like 5K, 7K, something like that. So
nice.
Something like that. I can't remember everything, but it was really, really like meaningful.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and there's a couple other things actually. I think making content. Yeah, definitely like a lot of YouTube.
You do a lot of tutorials, right? As well.
Yeah, I got a little bit more into it. I think the biggest one I did was with like a big content creator for like fighting games, which is That Blasted Slami, and they took me on to like make a tutorial like in fighting and like the main things about my character, Elisa. So the fact that they took a chance on me and trusted me enough to do that, it's a 3-part series, and I had never done one like that, but it was the fact that they invested that time and like the editing and I always wanted to do one, but it's one of my best pieces of work, I will say. Aside from competing, one of my best pieces of work ever because people found it very thorough and helpful.
It's a tutorial like start to finish, like how you would play Elisa?
Like it's her punishers, her like rage drive, how you defend against her. It's pretty much everything.
Are you the best Elisa in the world?
I'm one of them.
Maybe.
I'm
Who
one
else?
of them.
Who else would you say is like up to par?
There's a couple because I like studying from them.
Yeah.
So Jeannail, from Korea, Ao from Japan, Dawood from Pakistan, and Asharib also from Pakistan. I think they're also very strong Elisa players, that I respect and I love to study from, and I've talked to, and so like we kind of have this nice little fellowship there.
Yeah.
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 That's
When we
awesome.
were doing E-League, I don't remember anyone playing Elisa against you. Did
Yes.
anyone counterpick it? Did someone?
Obscure picked Elisa, but
Obscure.
that wasn't gonna happen though, because I picked Xiaoyu. It's a counter pick. I just at the time I was like, this is what I usually do. If somebody picks Elisa, I'm like, well, I'll just go the other route and I'll pick my other character because that's also my main. So why wouldn't I? But it's funny because my dear Scar said you need to. He's like, you need to. Why don't you play the mirror? And this was like months ago, like last year in September. He said you need to start playing the mirror match because he's like, what if it's what are you doing it because you're not confident enough in what you know against your own character? He's like, you need to do it. And so I did.
Wow.
I actually realized I started doing it in Japan because he was my training in Japan, and he was watching and stuff, and he would like message me like he's like, you need to do the mirror. And once I started doing it, I was so much better off for it. I beat
Good
someone in
advice.
the mirror as well, and it was like, oh, I was like, okay, so that that makes sense because I'm like, oh, maybe I'm just not trusting myself enough in this mirror.
Uh-huh.
And now I never don't do the mirror. I always do the mirror
Wow.
because I do know what I'm doing. I do.
Yeah, you
I
definitely
believe you.
definitely do. I watched you do it. Like, I mean, that was one of the, honestly, and I mean, I know I talked about it before, but it was one of my favorite days because I just got to see all of these men just be like, yeah, she's not going to win. She's trash. She's the underdog. And like all of them and like in front of you. And I was just sitting there like, wow, this is savage. Like, but that is part of the FGC and that's part of like the way competition goes. And just seeing you like keep yourself so composed during that whole thing and just literally like what Jimmy Jade transcend, just play normal Tekken,
Honestly,
that's all you were
'cause-
doing.
Yeah, because it's like, because a lot of us at the time, were underdogs, and we were known to be good in our own right and online as well. But a lot of us didn't we weren't traveling that much yet. I was still in school. So
Yeah.
whatever anybody had to say about me, I ain't thinking twice about it because it's like, I mean, I know like that I don't compete as much. I know what my other opponents are capable of. Some of them at least, because some of them I'm like, well, I play you, like I could take you. But it's like some
you.
but it's like, some of them you're like, oh man, they're pro, they've been traveling everywhere. Oh my god, like
Yeah.
Anakin. But I was like, wait.
Yeah.
At the same time, I'm like, I played this matchup 10,000 times and I know my matchups. I play against like the people I played against prepared me for that, but not like literally because they didn't know, but like because they were strong. They were just strong players, and that's it. One of them is still my teammate to this day, Joey Fury. So it's like,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Very cool.
And so it's like, you kind of learn early on that you just tune out the noise, because like people trash talk everybody. There's a difference between trash talk and little discrimination. So I obviously
Yeah.
but no.
Yes.
Tin line.
So
Right.
true.
So, but when it came to like, so many of us were underdogs, right? That they didn't expect us to, because we weren't Jimmy or we weren't Anakin. So now I could say I'm Cuddle. I'm a pro because I earned my spot because I decided after I graduated, once Equinox approached me, I was like, okay. And I started to compete and I proved it to myself. And that was it. Like, and now I'm up there with them. And, I still want to be just as strong in certain respects as them, like more clutch in certain situations. But now I can say, like, there's no underdog thing. It's just, I am a top player. So
Is that, that tournament, I loved the format of that tournament. I thought it was a lot of fun. But as a competitor, is that the kind of tournament you'd like to see again on something like E-League or TV, or or even just having that format at a tournament specifically? I don't know how often like a tag team snake draft thing is utilized.
Not for Tekken, definitely not often from what I've seen. The last one I did was Strong Style in Cali last year, and it was really good. Like it was Team Equinox, there's three of us. We got second, and we kicked some buns. It was hard, but the format was different. We just had we each had 2 lives,
Okay.
and we didn't do the snake. But I personally think it should come back. I
It was
think
fun.
team tournaments, I think, are a good way to show the talent of multiple people, but also kind of creates this like these narratives, these really awesome, fun, dynamic narratives that I think could kind of introduce more people to the FGC and the individuals within it. I just feel like sometimes the FGC doesn't get a lot of that coverage, but there's so many personalities, so many dynamic people that deserve to be given more exposure. And team tournaments, I think, definitely brings that out in people. Truthfully,
Come on,
I
E-League, do it
love
again.
it.
Do it again, TBS. We want to see it. We're
was
back
fun.
in for sure. Yeah.
I love
And-
3v3s in Montreal. So I'm from Quebec. In Montreal, we have a couple of lands throughout the years, usually. God bless us. But usually on Fridays, it's the 3v3s for the games that are competing. So if it's a Smash 3v3 or if it's a Snake Style or if it's a Street Fighter, I'd be surprised next time to see you out there for a Tekken event or DreamHack Montreal or something. I'll
I
see.
want to go.
I'll see. I'll see if we
Yes.
can like
That would
get
be
make it
Yes,
happen.
do that. I would love to see you guys play each other. That'd be so fun.
Oh my
I just
God.
sit there in the middle eating popcorn. That's what I'll just watch.
I can be watching her and being like, "Go Jeannail, you're the best." But I don't know about playing. I'm the worst.
I mean, at least you've competed in Evo.
I
Like,
have in Street
Which
Fighter.
So cool. When I heard that in the discussion you all had, I was like, that's so cool. Like, you know, I always find it so fun when people go to these events and they're just, enjoying it. You know,
Yeah.
either they sign up or they're spectator, whatever they are. It's just, I don't know. It always feels really good to see, people drawn into the FGC.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel for me to go to Evo, I have to just sign up because it's so like cash. You just sign up, you sit, take your stick, like kind of play, get bodied, and you're just like, yeah, I played. My pool was this morning at 8 a.m. You know, we're in Vegas. What's next? You know, like
Vegas, there's so many options. Like,
that's pretty much what happened. At 10, you're like done with your pool, and you're like, it's 10 a.m. My tournament is over. Let's go. I can drink
so
and just
much
have
to do. So much
I don't
to
know.
do.
It's just the greatest tournament. Michelle, you have to go.
I want to go to Evo sometime, like, when it hopefully comes back and everything is, normal and they fix the issues and COVID's not a problem. That would definitely be an event on my list. of
Honestly,
things to
it's
do.
just because if you don't want to be at the conventional where there's the craziness happening, you can just like take a step back, go sit in a casino, chill, and then like kind of still enjoy your time. There's no other tournaments like that in the world where you can like be, I don't want to get to the arena, but I still want to be part of the community. Like a Monday, you're a little bit hangover. And you can still be there. I don't know. There's like
you can kind of disconnect from the actual tournament, but like not really be gone from it. Like,
yeah. You see people
BlizzCon has
walking
that-
in the hall, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
that's my friend. Hey, it's just so cool.
they have that a little bit at BlizzCon in the sense that like, it's in the giant convention center and there's like 4-5 esports tournaments going on at one time. But then you can like walk outside and there's food trucks everywhere and like there's, the hotel lobbies everywhere. So it does have like that Vegas-ish feel without like being in Vegas and just being in Irvine. But it does have that feel, and there is something just really electric about it because everybody is there for the same reason and it's just really fun. But yeah, I don't know. So what else are you doing, Cuddlecore? Like you seem to be doing a lot. You've got your podcast. When is that coming back?
Probably maybe at the end of the month or probably the start of the new year because me and Alicia are still very, very busy. And so I think for us, it'll probably work better, I'm assuming, once the new year starts, we have a bit of a breather.
I like the
Yeah.
title of it. I like the
Yeah, I
word
love it.
woke. I know that people are saying like woke all the time, so it's not cool anymore to say woke, but
Right.
I like it. I like FGC woke. It's so cool.
It's just got a nice ring to it. It's cool.
Yes.
It's like FGC woke, and it feels like that's what the FGC needs to hear.
Really, but some people don't like hearing about other people's disparities, which is quite funny to me because I'm like, oh,
Ah.
really?
Who
'Cause,
hurt
like,
you?
I made this point before. I'm like, look, it's all fine and good when I'm talking about frame data and like what this superficial stuff in a game, but like me, the entertainer, it's not just about me entertaining you. My mental health and my well-being matters too, like
Mhm.
any other person, but you don't want to hear about it. I'm like, then you don't need to support me because I'm
Yeah,
like,
right.
yeah, and I've had to say that a few times,
I
and
like
now
it.
people make it. They understand now, like
Yeah.
like if you don't mess with it, then you don't have to be here. Like that's it. Because like
Mhm.
I don't want big support. Because like if you're going to support me and what I do, you support all of me. It's not
That's right.
just oh yeah, she plays, but I don't want to hear about what women go through in the community.
Good for
Yeah,
you,
you're a
man. Like
joke,
that.
dude.
That was honestly, man, that was honestly one of my biggest struggles. Like, just I moved to Los Angeles 20 years ago, and there's so many expectations that you're supposed to have, and like the things that you're allowed to say and the things that you weren't allowed to say were
Yeah.
really hard for me because I have a big mouth, and I always wanted, literally and figuratively, and
You
I
wanna be
always
vocal
want
about
to,
it.
yeah, I want to speak my mind, and that set me back more than once. Like that got in my way because things were not as like people, at least nowadays, at least I hate the term at least, but at least nowadays, people listen. At least they're kind of like hearing it, and maybe
Right.
change will happen. Where
Right.
prior, it just felt like everyone was like, shut up, or they would judge you. Like, they're like, we're only here for you to do this one thing. We're
And
only
that's
here
it.
for you to host and smile. We're only here for you to put on mascara and look pretty and sit between the guys. You're here to be the female token. You're here to be that voice. Like, you're good at your job and we like you, but
Right.
I don't want to hear about anything you deal with at all. And so good for you for like, standing up for what's important to you, and demanding from your community and your fans that they accept you as you are instead of them telling you the way they want you to be. And that was something that I had a hard time with for a really long time, trying to like walk that line between like, who am I as a performer and an entertainer and a content creator or producer or an actress? Who am I in all of this? And like, does it matter what's important to me? And that was always really difficult for me. Like I had many panic attacks about that sort of issue. So I'm glad that you kind of don't shy away from that with your fan base. I was always very like close to my chest over things that were important to me. I didn't, and only in the last like, I don't know, 5-6 years have I been more vocal about, the changes that I want to see, at least on a public basis. Like, I'd always speak my
Right.
mind in meetings and stuff that would get me in lots of trouble. But like, as far as like being online on Twitter or, social media or whatnot. So
I
good for
think
you.
that the current generation is really lucky. I know that it's probably what my parents were thinking too. Like I wish I was like 20 years younger to live in that generation, right? Not because I wish I looked younger or whatever. I just wish I had the resources that you guys have now to face life. Like I feel that you guys are all a decade ahead of where I was. Exactly what Michelle
Yes.
said. This is how I feel too. Like I feel that we didn't have a place to speak when I was a teenager. So for me to grow into the woman that I am now, I had to fight for it within myself first before kind of being like, well, F everyone. Which now people are F everyone. So I feel it's a little bit easier to like be that human, be like that. I respect myself, which we didn't have that much role models.
That's what it is.
When we were younger.
That's exactly what it is, Stephanie. It's the I respect myself thing, that like the confidence to be able to respect yourself in a public manner. that's I think what I appreciate the most. And also I would like to travel back and look younger. And that would be great too. I'm definitely down with that.
less wrinkles.
I would do that.
But the things, imagine, girls, the things we would do if we had the knowledge we have now in like a 20-year-old body. Oh my God.
That'd be like the best shit I'd get done. Like,
is my camera?
It's a little blurry.
It's doing a little focusy
Oh,
thing.
you're back. You're back.
It's like focus in,
No worries.
focus out.
So you're doing so much all across, Jeannail. I want to kind of slowly wrap this up and let you kind of give a little bit of shout out to something you're doing and or like someone that you really like that's doing something at the moment within your community or the people you're looking at.
Okay. Well, I know I kind of talked about the things I was doing. I mean, I'm doing even more than that. Definitely looking, some, kind of more opportunities to kind of expand my brand. I can't really talk about too much of it yet, but definitely to expand my brand more and things like that. Continuing to compete. Equinox is collaborating with Gamers Outreach, where we'll be raising money, and that's going to be something that we're doing as well. So pretty excited for that. Our 5v5 that we're having December 12th, I believe. The money for the from that will actually go to I think maybe the winners children's hospital of choice. That's big. And
that's
so
huge.
we'll be giving back. In the community, there's a lot of things going on. Sometimes I can't really keep up.
It goes so fast in COVID, I feel.
Yes. And
every day's the same, and it's just like you're December already.
Yeah, and I'm like, geez, shoot. I can't really put a finger on certain things, but I will say that the people that are keeping the community alive with the tournaments that they hold every week or like every month, the new tournaments that they're making, kind of replacing them with old ones, replacing the old ones, adding in new ones, kind of including more people. I definitely have seen like women's tournaments. Actually, I think like a bit more popping up, so that's good too. There's just a lot of fun things going on. Even with Bandai Namco in regards to Tekken and the fact that they're not letting COVID kind of like ruin the competitive spirit of the community, they're kind of making it stronger. And so like the exhibitions, the regional tournaments that they've held for Tekken have been really fun and super exciting. I think like there's still a lot of like energy that the FGC I think can preserve. Until we can go offline again. I don't know how much of it will be salvageable, but honestly, I think maybe it'll kind of just revamp. It'll be a little hard, but I think it can work. But there's a lot of people doing a lot of great stuff for the community. Like I said, it's kind of just a lot in my head, but like, there's a lot that they're doing to keep people interested, entertained, but also involved.
Yeah, and I know you've got I know you can't really say much about the documentary, but you do have a documentary coming out soon.
That.
Tell us.
I mean, like I can't really talk about this other thing either, but it's also like a episode of something, and so I'm excited for that. I'm curious how it's gonna look, but it's also kind of like the it focuses on like me, my experiences. In the fighting game community. I have not seen any finished product of it or anything, so looking at that will be interesting. There's a lot of things like that I'm excited to see in regards to it. The documentary and something else that's going on. They definitely have the same kind of tone in my opinion, but a little different. I think the documentary is supposed to drop next year. So I'm curious. It's so funny. I don't like watching things with myself in it sometimes.
Same.
And I'm like,
hate it.
And it's
so
like,
hard to
God.
do.
Yes, but
it's so hard. It's important. It's just like it's like watching back. To study your your competition. Like in a way, yes. It's like it's good to know how you present and how that story sounds. And I always learn from, I hate watching myself, but I always learn from it somehow. So I'm sure it'll be a good experience for you and all in all. And I can't wait to see everything that you do, Cuddle. Honestly, like, you are just one of my favorite people in esports, like I've said 100 times. And I'm just really inspired by you and what you're doing, and, you know, and how you're moving things forward for women, for Black women, for competitors, for people to see that, you know, you shouldn't be judged for any reason outside of your own competition. And I think you really embody that. And I think you've got a great community of people on Twitch that are so supportive of you and have that same vision and outlook, which is great that you're, you know, curating this group of people to help espouse that same sort of like feeling that you have. So I really love everything you're doing, and I can't wait to see what you do next. I really can't. Like, you've got so much time ahead of you, and I just really cannot wait to see it. But anyway, I really appreciate you coming on the show. Stephanie and I were so excited to have you on. I know Miss Harvey was really excited to meet you, and we're just really happy. So thank you so much for coming on. Everybody, thank you so much for listening to the Game Diaries Postscript. Please go ahead and subscribe, hit the subscribe, leave your reviews. We love reading them. It does help us. So please continue to do that. And yeah, keep them coming.
Yeah, and remember, I can't believe that I went through this episode without crying, because in the first minute, I wanted to cry. I already had tears, and then I had to like breathe in, breathe out. But remember, if you have a cool story, just as cool as Cuddle Core, obviously, or any other story that you'd like to share about video games and how they change your life, make sure to give us and subscribe. Make sure to send us your story. Okay, I did it, guys. You can have your own game diaries, because we read them on our shows all the time. So visit thegamediaries.com to submit your stories. Thank you so much, Jeannail. Thank you for being on the show. Follow her at cuddle_core on Twitter, and I assume everywhere else.
Oh, it's TK underscore.
TK _cuddle on Instagram.
Oh, on Instagram. Okay, great.
On the gram.
Oh,
follow her on the gram.
Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time for another episode of The Game Diaries.